This year at NAB, I got to take part in a very cool project with PhotoJoseph, filming and publishing short video interviews around the expo hall and publishing them the same day. In this video, I'll share the behind the scenes of how we made it all happen. Hi, I'm Aaron Parecki. First of all, this project was sponsored by Atomos, so a huge thank you to Atomos for making this all possible. And of course, thanks to PhotoJoseph, who was the brains behind the whole operation, coordinating with our sponsors and the rest of our team, but more on that later. First of all, if you haven't already seen our coverage of NAB, you can take a look at my and Joseph's Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube accounts to see all the videos we posted there. We went around to a bunch of booths and we filmed short interviews with people there to bring you the latest updates from the show floor. But more importantly, we published those videos the same day we filmed them. How, you might ask? Well, that is where the fun starts. We knew we weren't going to have time to edit videos ourselves during the show. The expo hall is open till 6 p.m. and there's always social events to go to in the evenings. So the first part of this project was getting an editor on board who would be doing the edits for us. The next trick is we didn't want to be running around handing off SD cards, and we also didn't want the editor to have to come to Vegas. And that is where Atomos came in. Using the Atomos Connect, we were able to run the HDMI out of the camera into the Ninja V recorder, and the Atomos Connect would upload those recorded files to Frame.io, where the editor could download them as they were coming in. This was the theory anyway, but I'll get back to how it worked out in practice in a second. So we have a remote editor in LA logged into Frame.io waiting for videos to appear. As soon as we hit record, the Connect starts uploading the videos. Yes, as we are filming it. And when we press stop, a few seconds later, the file is uploaded. The editor would take all the clips we recorded and stitch together a short 60 to 90 second video that we would then post on social. We also wanted to be able to use that footage that we captured for regular 16:9 videos to publish to YouTube later. And that's where things get kind of interesting. The camera that we used is Joseph's Lumix S5 II. This was mounted in vertical mode inside a Condor Blue cage. The camera can shoot in 6K open gate, which when vertical means it's shooting 3968 pixels wide and 5952 pixels tall. This goes into the Atomos recorder and it's downscaled to 1080 by 1920. So the Connect is actually uploading 1080 by 1920 video to the cloud for the editor to start working on right away. Since that video is downscaled, the files are also a lot smaller. And that's all the resolution we need for vertical video on Instagram and TikTok anyway. But internally, the camera is recording the full 3968 by 5952 video, which interestingly is still more than wide enough to crop out a full 4K 3840 wide by 2160 tall. So that was the plan. Shoot vertical video, upload a downscaled version to Frame.io. The editor can start editing the last video as we move on to the next booth. So what was the internet connection for the Atomos Connect? Well, if you've been to NAB, you know that the Wi-Fi and cell service there can be a bit, well, awful. Thankfully, we also had support from a company that makes a bonding cellular solution called Sclera. They let us borrow a backpack with a dual SIM bonded cellular modem with a large external antenna and a big battery. This backpack provided internet to us as we were walking around the show floor. Once we got it all set up, there was still too much congestion in the 2.4 gigahertz space, and the Atomos Connect actually wasn't able to get a reliable Wi-Fi connection to the modem's Wi-Fi hotspot. So instead, we ended up running an Ethernet connection from the Connect to that modem. And then it was totally fine. For the most part, this worked great. There were still some dead zones once you get into the center of the show floor. So around the edges of the building, near the windows and doors, the signal was great. So basically, it just meant that if we were filming a booth near the edge of the room, the footage would be uploading in real time as we were filming. But if we were somewhere in the middle, then it would just have to wait a little bit until the cell service got better once we were towards the edges of the room. Overall, it worked out pretty well though, and we didn't really have to wait much at all for the uploading. And since we were getting this question during the show a lot, I do want to reiterate that yes, the Atomos Connect uploads the video as you are filming, even before the file is done being written. So if we filmed a 3-minute interview, it's uploading that whole time. And as soon as we press stop, there's only a few megabytes left to upload. It was really wild seeing that happen and knowing that the video is already up in Frame.io, ready to be edited as soon as I hit stop. So as far as the actual filming, our process was basically to walk up to a booth that looked interesting, explain a little bit about the project, ask a couple questions about one of the products, and then we would turn around and give a brief intro to the camera, introduce a guest from the booth, and do a quick back and forth interview with them, trying to keep the whole thing under about 2 minutes. Then we would thank them and then shoot a bunch of B-roll around the booth to include on top of the interview. Then pack it all up and move on to the next booth. The microphone we used was the Sennheiser AVX kit, which is connected to the XLR adapter for the Lumix camera. And even though this mic was wireless, it was absolutely rock solid. We were at most about 10 feet away from the receiver, and it had absolutely no trouble with that distance. We never had any dropouts at all. So once we were done at the booth, we would move that footage in Frame.io into a folder labeled with that booth, and then text the editor that we were done and he could start working on that video. The editor would text back when the video was done and upload it to Frame.io for review. And then we would find a moment to watch back the video, usually while walking to the next booth, and respond with any edits. Sometimes we had to ask for changes like use more B-roll or take out this segment from the interview to shorten it, things like that. One thing we started doing halfway through the first day was, while recording the B-roll, also record talking into the mic, explaining where that footage goes. And that was really helpful to the editor since it wasn't always obvious what things were what and where they would fit in over on top of the interview. So after we got a version that we liked, we actually had a fourth person involved too. He was actually at NAB and had a cell phone that was logged into Joseph and my Instagram and TikTok accounts. So we would text him, Blackmagic Videos approved. He would download that video from Frame.io, upload it to my accounts, write a description, and then tag the right people. I know it doesn't sound like much, but it was super helpful to have somebody else doing that because I barely had time to even review the videos between booths, much less also write the captions and find all the accounts to tag. So that's it. That's the workflow we use to turn around these videos on the same day. I also already recut some of the B-roll from the clips and used them during my live stream after NAB. I'll link to that video down below so you can see the reframed clips from the original 6K footage. I'm also using these clips for my full NAB recap video where I talk in more detail about all the products and services we got to see. I'll also leave a link to Joseph's video explaining the whole camera rig that he posted before we left. He goes into even more detail about the Lumix and the Atomos gear that we used in that video. This project was a ton of fun. Thanks again to Atomos for sponsoring it. I already have a ton of ideas for things we could improve on for next year, so I am hoping we'll get a chance to do it again. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.